Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. I'm Les Winston, and we are all about endowing America. I believe that endowing America is the number one issue that we have to solve in this country to make our nonprofit organizations self-sustaining and to make our own well-being guaranteed into the future so that we have income to live on and we can arrange for our own security the way we need to in the style that we want to and in the amount that we need to. That's one of the freedoms that we have when we use Section 664 and other sections of the tax code that we like to call the social security sections. Those are the ones that give you income and also allow you to do something wonderful for the community when you pass on. It is a very nice bargain that the Congress gave us in 1969 that very few people know about. We're in the process of changing that. We want to have every individual know when to use and how to use a 664. And if you don't know how to do that, you need to ask your advisors about it. There is a way to make your own well-being, your own retirement planning more certain than any other device that's available. And it's done with very favorable tax benefits. So you get to do something for yourself. You create an endowment for yourself that you use to live on for your life. And then when you pass, you move that endowment to where you want it to go, as opposed to leaving it to the government or leaving it to taxes. Part of the problem that we have in the country today, and part of the problem that's a lot of you are facing, is actually the thought of living too long. Aging has become a real thing. We have an aging population, and there are a lot of people that are looking to help you solve the problems of aging and how to do it with the proper tools. My guest today is Deborah Heiser. Deborah is an applied developmental psychologist. She's a frequent speaker on TEDx and has been talking about aging for many, many years. So, Deborah, what can we look forward to as we age?
One thing we can look forward to is better emotional well-being as we age. We are all very familiar with our physical aging, which is scary to most of us. We can expect a steep incline and then a steady decline, and that's really what turns a lot of people off to thinking about aging. But what most people don't know about is that from birth all the way to the end of our lives, our emotional trajectory goes up. So when I speak to the students that I teach, I say, I can't run as fast as you, but I'm happier than you. And that's what we can look
Okay.
forward to.
Okay. And so you're saying emotionally we're designed to what? Mellow out, to find a way to enjoy our old age?
What we're designed to do is to really, we're from young adult age, we're figuring out who we are, right? We are
Mhm.
all used to that when we're in college age and a little bit younger, we're figuring out who we want to be, what do we want to be when we grow up. And then we start to settle in and we move forward with more intimate relationships. We sort of slough off some of those really superficial, fun relationships that we had, but steadily get more intimate with individuals like a spouse, and we start to have children, these sorts of things. And as we do that, we're also becoming experts in the jobs that we're doing. And we then hit a point where we say, hey, I know who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. And now I'd like to give back.
Mhm.
And that's a point in midlife that we hit where we call that generativity. And most people think of that as something that doesn't sound so exciting, giving back. But in reality, it's the way that we keep ourselves immortal. If we're being generative in how we give back to others through mentoring, philanthropy, through volunteering, we're taking a piece of ourselves and putting it out there into the world, and then it lives on in someone else. And that,
Is that the mentoring aspect of what you're about? The generativity is the idea that one generation shares with another. Is
yes,
that?
it can be a one generation or it can be lateral as well.
Hmm.
In any way, the generative part, I'll explain that a little bit. When we're saying generativity or being generative, it's putting out. Most people think of that as being generous, like they think of a mentor or a volunteer or even philanthropy as being generous.
Hmm.
But generous is really going to an ice cream shop and getting an extra scoop of ice cream. You eat it, you digest it, and that's it. It's gone. It was great while it lasted. If
Okay.
you're generative with yourself, if you share your expertise, what you're doing right now with everyone, that knowledge I gained from you lives on in me, and it never goes away. Then I probably pass it on to somebody else. So a little bit of Les Winston is living on in me right now, and then I'll be able to pass that on. That's generative. It lives on beyond
So
you.
it's like it's almost tribalism in a way. Going back to the to when tribalism was the governing civilizing route, sharing the lore and sharing what you know. Yeah, I learned a lot from my father for sure, but I think I could have learned from other people as well. But I think is there a question today in the older generations? Are they willing to share, or do they? It's something somewhere along the line is almost like a blockade between the one generation and the older generation. They don't talk to each other necessarily, and I don't know that there's a lot of sharing. Are you trying to overcome that?
Yes. What we've noticed is there's a lot of people who say, go find yourself a mentor, to people starting out in the field. And they are tasked with then going to find some faceless individual who's going to go help them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pressure on a person. But I've spoken to, the reason I got into mentoring was I spoke with people who said, and they're real experts in the world, like they've done world changing things, and they've said, I don't have any connections with people that I can mentor. I'm so far removed from schools. I don't work in a corporate environment. Maybe they were
Mm-hmm.
innovators, or they're retired. So this disconnect is the problem that we have, is that we have two motivated people. We have motivated potential mentees and we have motivated mentors, and they can't meet. So that was where I came into the space and said, we need to get people to meet.
How do you facilitate that?
You know what? It's interesting. It didn't start with any grand idea. I was talking with two big innovators, the guy who patented how we use credit cards on the internet and one of the fathers of the firewall. And both of them said they didn't know how to get in front of kids. And Bill Cheswick, the guy who was one of the founders of the firewall, said, I'd love to just go to kids in parks or to schools. And I was like, no, don't do that. That's not a good idea. So
The impression is bad. Yeah.
yeah, so we decided to just start with a couple of, with Bill and Bob essentially, and try to get them into schools. And once we did that, then all their friends said, I want to do it. And it went from 10 people to 60 within 6 months. And these are all people like astronauts and people that have done amazing things who then wanted to do it. We had no idea. Everyone said, no one will want to volunteer their time and do this for free. Everyone is too busy if they're an expert, and they were completely wrong, completely wrong. So we've been growing and growing and developing the mentor project simply because there are tons of mentors who want to give.
That's a very interesting part of because one of the things that I like to talk about on the program is the idea of people working at their genius. The objective for everybody should be that they have confidence over their money, they have confidence over their time, the confidence over relationships, and they have confidence over their spiritual being, and they can now work at their genius and share that tremendous asset base that we have accumulated in the knowledge base of the people that we just take for granted in essence. I have just as an anecdotal story. I have a farmer that's a 93-year-old gentleman, and I have lunch with him every other week. Not because I have to, but because I want to. It's actually one of the most interesting meetings that I have, and it's because of his. He's a farmer, and he shares his knowledge about farming. It's really quite amazing. So I can see where you can get a lot of benefit to generation sharing,
Yeah.
and so what makes a good mentor?
So a good mentor is anyone. It can be, you talked about tribalism. The
Mm-hmm.
way that we have religion that has come so far for so many centuries is because people pass that on. That's good mentor. We know that there were good mentors there because things have been passed on.
Hmm.
That's values, that's morals, that's the way that, people think. So a good mentor is simply someone who has something in them that they'd like to share, that they're an expert in. I like to think of every one of us as being, that our most precious natural resource is us and our expertise. And that as long as we're sharing that, whatever that is, it could be that I'm a grandma and I'm sharing, the family traditions. It could
Hmm.
be that I'm, myself right here and now saying, I want to talk about aging, or I want to talk about, my area of expertise. Everyone, there's literally no one that doesn't have an expertise. So a good mentor is someone who simply shares their expertise, however they do that.
And having a forum to do that, I guess they can do that with their grandchildren. They can do it with obviously with their family.
Or with their
Um,
friends, like your friend is doing with you.
yeah, that's we're missing that, and I don't know that the youngest generation is going to take up the personal conversations when they're so developed in the technological area, where the phone and their mobile device is their entire life. How do you break through that? How do you, I mean, I go to dinner sometimes with my grandchildren, and there's no conversation. They're on their phone. I
Yeah.
have to make a rule almost that you can't bring your phone. Otherwise, I can't even talk to them. I can't share with them what I would like to share with them unless I was able to get into TikTok or a reel. You know, what
Well,
do you
that is,
do?
um, I think that part of what we do is, and there is an issue with that. And part of it is that you could join in those platforms is one way. The other way is, like you said, you say, hey, no phone for a little while. But there's a bigger thing that I have noticed, and that is that there is a dwindling of civic engagement for youth. So when I was young, I'm 55. So when I was younger, it was the tail end of when we had candy stripers, um,
Hmm.
things like that, where you were expected to go as part of school and do civic engagement. That was an actual class. And you could choose how you wanted to get involved in the world outside yourself. And I don't see as much of that happening. And I think that one way that we could do that is by getting young people more involved in civic engagement with whatever that is. And there's such an enormously wide range of things to do with that. But then that helps when a person can then see, oh, this person might be helpful to me, or I might be able to give to society. And they might then see that mentoring or volunteering or philanthropy is something that they could engage in later.
I would like to appeal to 13-year-olds actually, with what we're talking about on the Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, because I would like young people to be able to become interested in doing things that would generate philanthropic feeling. You've mentioned mentoring or seniors mentoring and giving back. What do you think the impact of that is on their longevity and on their well-being,
On the
on the
person,
mentor?
on the mentor, oh, I can tell you that we know from literature that those who give back, from research, that they live longer, physically longer lives, and emotionally more healthy lives. So part of that is that you're having a meaningful connection and you feel valued, you feel your value being put out into the world. There's a
Mhm.
part of us that all of us wants to feel like all those boxes we've checked our whole lives matter.
Yeah.
That we checked them off and we aren't just looking for another box to check, but that we say, wow, all that hard work I did was for a reason. And somebody else finds value in what I did. There's no value monetarily that you can put on that. That is such a huge emotional value to us, though. And the mentors who I have worked with, they cry when they talk about being mentors. There's one example, he's not our mentor, but he talked about the impact that it had on him. He's a Nobel laureate in chemistry, and Bob Lefkowitz is his name. And he leave it to a Nobel laureate to write in a journal article about his legacy tree. he actually made a tree with those who were his mentors and those who were his mentees. And he went to a conference and somebody read it. And he said to him, Bob, I'm 6 degrees Lefkowitz. And he said, what do you mean? And he said, well, I'm 6 degrees away from you, but I'll tell you about what I'm working on. And when Bob heard him talking about his work using Bob's words and his language, he was overtaken, because there's something about knowing that you live on in others that is incredibly powerful, that that you mattered, that you had meaning in somebody else's life. So that's the level that it means to people, that they know that they are living on in others.
They can be significant. It's an important part of it. My guest is Deborah Heiser. Deborah is an applied developmental psychologist and knows a lot about aging and how we can share in generational activity with other generations, calling it Generativity. We'll be back with her in a sec.
You ever just want to tune out the world and relax? Then you've come to the right place. At Route664.org, we've got great music that will keep you entertained for hours and uplifting conversation that will make you feel good about yourself and the world. So come on in and take a load off. We won't judge here. Route664.org.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, headaches, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, hormone imbalances, ADHD, or any other condition that's disrupting your quality of life? With the Body Chem program, you can feel better than you have in years. We'll test you for nutritional and chemical imbalances and design a specific dietary plan for your individual needs. Everything we do is natural, and you won't be subjected to invasive procedures and harsh pharmaceuticals. When you're healthy, you're happy. Why wait? Call today.
We've got best-selling authors.
You are going to start to uncover all the layers that are covering your genius.
And some of the world's top leadership experts.
We have structured a mastermind program that is very unusual and it is very powerful.
Robin Sharma at noon.
Your creativity will soar, your productivity will be epic, your impact will be legendary, you will be the best in the business, and you will not only achieve remarkable things, but you're going to feel sunsets, you'll feel a connection to people, you'll feel for what's going on in the world, and that will make you a world changer in your own unique way.
Robin Sharma at noon at 4 p.m.
It's a
Blaine Bartlett.
Exploration of what it takes to be a highly effective leader in today's fast-changing environment.
Best-selling author, executive, and leadership coach.
And if you've been liking what you've been listening to on the Soul of Business podcasts, how does one become a leader that can keep connection to the soul of business?
Blaine Bartlett at 4 p.m.
Look forward to seeing you there.
At Route664.org. This is Route 664 Radio.
Hey folks, it's Charity here. 664 equals endowment squared. That means income for you, benefits for all. It's a way to help make the world a better place. Peace through prosperity, prosperity through peace. Join us at socialsecurity.org.
We're back. That is a sec. So my guest is Deborah Heiser. Deborah, I wanted to get to another part of this equation, and that is the retirement aspect of it. Do people retire today?
They do. It doesn't look like when I was a kid, retirement was a vision of someone golfing. I don't know why, but that was what it was, that you sat around and you golfed all day. And there was lots of happiness about just doing that.
If you're a good golfer, it's okay. But if you're a lousy golfer, it's no fun. So
we see that some of I think more entrepreneurs are baby boomers than any other age group. And so our retirees don't look like they used to before. Golf is maybe involved, but it's not the prime thing that people are involved in. They're starting companies. They're pivoting to doing the things that are purposeful in their lives that mattered. More people are getting involved in charitable organizations. They join the boards. They do other things that matter to them and provide them with purpose. So it isn't as much of a vacation or leisure time that once was thought of as the ultimate thing to aspire toward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could be happy unless I had a purpose, and I've taken up a lot of purposes, and I don't really even think about it as working because I enjoy what I do, and that's what I say working at your genius is something you can do 24 hours a day, never get tired of, and that's the way I feel about what I'm doing with this project with Endow America and with the ability to talk to folks like yourself and help people get an idea of what the real planning process can be, including this kind of voluntary sharing of a person's skill sets. I mean, there's a lot of talent, a lot of experience that is going to waste that we should be able to harness. So I'm fully on board with what you're doing to bring generations together to maybe to work to solve problems. That's an important aspect of what everything is going to be going forward, because our idea of Big Brother solving our problems and government doing it, it's not doesn't work as well, and I think we're seeing that now. But we need to change. Do you think the Gen Z is the change generation, or was it the millennials, or which generation do you think is the one that will probably pick up the mantle and reach out to the older generation and accept the older generation's input? I mean, I used to hear the idea that, the parent is a dual enemy of the grandchild and the grandparent. Is it skipping a generation? Do you think that the grandparents are not that close to the grandchildren anymore? What is? I guess I'm trying to figure out where is the solution.
I don't think that people are less close than they ever were before. The one nice thing is that social media brings people who live a distance together. So, I lived far away from my grandparents, and we had a phone, so that you called and you got charged for long distance and those sorts of things. So we didn't have a lot of ability to connect. Now people can connect even if they're at a distance in ways that we couldn't. So I do think that I think that people can connect still. It's going to look different though. And it's not going to feel to our generation or my generation, or maybe even some younger people's generation, the same as it did as they expected. But I do think it's still happening. It's happening. The values are still being passed on. If you think of holidays, you're probably eating some of the same things you always have because that's your tradition, and that doesn't change. The kids are going to be eating those same things at every holiday, and they'll be having the same sort of traditions that will happen. Religion isn't changing. The rules aren't changing with any of that. I think that those sorts of things are getting passed on, and it may look different. It might be through Zoom. It might be through some kind of other way that grandparents are communicating. In terms of the workplace, though, I'm not sure, because we now have a lot of remote workers, and it's very difficult to reach out via Zoom for mentorship. And it's very difficult because there hasn't been a navigator for that yet. We're navigating new territory. And so some people who are the mentors aren't used to giving their advice that way. Some things were passed down in a more hands-on way. So
Deborah, let me ask you a question. If I wanted to reach out to my grandchildren with technology, and I wanted to send them a text and say to them, what would I say to them to start the conversation about what we're talking about?
I think it would be, hi. It depends on the age of the grandchild, but hi, would you mind sitting around and talking with me for about an hour this weekend? What time this week might you have an hour to talk with me? I miss you. I want to talk with you. I'd love to share some information with you.
Yeah, I think, and I think coming from the grandparent, it's not like the parent saying it to them, because the parent says it to them. It's like corrective behavior. Yeah, that's a very good thought. On that note, Deborah, reaching out to your grandchildren and saying, I'd like to sit and talk to you for an hour is a great idea. Just really simple, very simple. And then you could say, I'd also like to reach out to your friends, but you got to be careful. So
I will tell you that we had my mother-in-law living with us for 10 years, and she would get my kids' friends to come and play board games with her, and none of them minded. They were all into it. So I think that people are afraid that they're too that there's a disconnect there. But I do believe that my kids weren't unusual and their friends weren't unusual. And that if you were to say, hey, I want to do something with you and your friends, they'd do it.
My guest is Deborah Heiser. Thank you very much for joining us today on Route 664, the road to human kindness. And tell everybody in the world to be mentors to other people and share. And I appreciate that message. That's a really good message for the road to human kindness. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hey folks, it's Charity here. Philanthropy meets financial gains in the inspiring space of donor advised funds. Tax Code 664 provides a perfect opportunity to both reduce taxable income and make charitable contributions through real estate donations. For donors, liquidating difficult to sell property while providing valuable assistance to nonprofits is made easier using this tax code. Heirs can benefit as well. So whether you're trying to save money or help your favorite organization aid its mission statement, look no further than giving creatively under Tax Code 664 for beneficial results all around.